Today we're going to be reviewing our trigonometric ratios. Start off with, we're going to be reviewing how to just put these in our calculator. Our instructions here tell us that we need to round to the nearest hundredth. So always pay attention to where you're told to round to, nearest hundredth. So we have the sine of 23 degrees, the tangent of 57 degrees, cosine of 42 degrees, and cosine of 45 degrees. For each of these things, we're going to be using our handy-dandy calculator. Anytime you're using your calculator, the first thing you do after we turn it on, clear everything out of here, make sure that it is in degree mode. Hit the mode button, you move down 2 places, arrow over once, and press enter to make sure it's set for degrees. Hit second mode to get back to our home screen. My first one says the sine of 23 degrees, so I press sine 23 and press enter. So this one was going to be 0.39. For my next one here, it's cosine of 42. So for this one, I'm going to go through and press cosine 42, press enter. This one will be 0.74, 74 hundredths. Next one I have is the tangent of 57. So I hit tangent, T-A-N, 57, press enter. This one will be 1.54. And my last one is the cosine of 45 degrees. So I press cosine 45 and press enter. Here I have 0.71 or 71 hundredths. For problems like these, it's a matter of using our calculator, punching in the information given to us, pressing enter, and then rounding to the correct place. Looking at my next examples. In these next problems here, we have to go and find the missing pieces. The first thing we're asked to do is find the measure of angle B. Angle B is right here. Remember, in a triangle, all the angles of a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. Well, I'm given that this one here is 90 degrees. Since that's 90 degrees, that means that my other two angles, angle A plus angle B, have to add to 90 degrees as well. Well, angle A is given to me as 42 degrees, plus the measure of angle B is equal to my 90. So I subtract 42 from both sides, and I find out that angle B, the measure of angle B, is, well, we borrow, and that's an 8. This is 8, so 48 degrees. 48 degrees. Now I can now use this information here to help me with solving these problems. I'm looking for x here. Well, this is my, using the 42 degrees, this would be my adjacent side, this would be my opposite side, and this is my hypotenuse. So since it's my adjacent side, I'm looking for the x, I'm going to be using the cosine. So the cosine of 42 is equal to x over 23. Now it's a matter of multiplying these two values together. To find my y value, instead of using cosine, I'm going to use the opposite in hypotenuse, so I'll be doing the sine of 42 is equal to x over 23. So for this one, I'm going to be multiplying 23 times the sine of 42. At this point, we grab our handy-dandy calculator, and we just punch in our values here. So I'm going to do 23 cosine of 42. Press enter, and that'll be 17.09. 17.09 is the value of x. To find the value of y, I'm going to go through and do 23. Well, if I can get my pen back here, 23 sine of 42. That'll give me 15.39. And there's my x, my y, and my measure of angle B. For number 6, we're going to do the same process. To find the measure of angle B, I'm going to do 90 minus the 23, which gives me 67. So this one is 67 degrees. This time, here's my angle, 23 degrees. I'm going to use, to find my x value, I'm going to use my cosine. So the cosine of 23 is equal to 3 over x. So I'm going to find that my x is equal to 3 divided by the cosine of 23. To find my y value, that's the opposite over the adjacent, I'm going to actually use this value here, my 67. So I'm going to do the tangent of 23, actually. 23 is equal to the opposite, which is y, over 3. So I'm going to do 3 times the tangent of 23 to find my value of y. At this point, we go grab our handy-dandy calculator. We go punch these values in. For the first one, 3 divided by the cosine of 23. It gives me 3.26. To find the value of y, we're going to do 3 times the tangent of 23. And that one gives me 1.27. Looking at our next examples. It says, use trig ratios and your graphing calculator to approximate each length and angle of measure to the nearest hundredth. Again, pay attention to where they ask you to round. These are all right triangles. So looking at number 7, here's my angle here. I have the opposite and my hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse means I'm going to do the sine of x degrees is equal to 4 over 12. In order to undo the sine, I have to do the inverse sine. So x is equal to the inverse sine of 4/12. Grab my handy-dandy calculator here. Well, if I can grab it. Here we're going to take and do second sine, so that's our inverse sine, 4 divided by 12, and press enter. So that tells us that it is 19.47 degrees. Looking at number 8. For number 8, we need to go find the measure of these angles here, this angle and this angle. This one is the one that's 90 degrees. So to find the measure of angle x, right here I'm going to do the cosine of x is equal to, this is my adjacent, this is my hypotenuse. So I can do 3 over 7. So to find the x, I'm going to do x is equal to the inverse cosine of 3/7. And that will give me the value, the degrees of angle x. At this point, I grab my handy-dandy calculator, and I do second cosine for the inverse cosine of 3 divided by 7. I press enter, and I see that it is 64.62 degrees. At this point, I could go through and use my trig ratios, or I can go, hey, wait a minute. I know that x and y have to add to 90 degrees. So I can do 90 minus my 64.62, and find the value of y, which is 25.38 degrees. Looking at number 9. Number 9, we're looking for the value of x here. Here's my angle. So I'm going to do the tangent. So I have the tangent of 32 because I have my opposite and my adjacent. I'm not using the hypotenuse this time. So the tangent of 32 is equal to x over 3.5. So I have to multiply these two things here together. Grab my handy dandy calculator. Here I do 3.5 tangent of 32. I get 2.19. Looking at number 10. Number 10, I'm looking for my angle. My angle is right here. I have the adjacent side and my hypotenuse. So I'm going to be using cosine. So this is going to be the cosine of the z is equal to 7.4 over 8. So z is equal to the inverse cosine, because we've got to undo the cosine, of 7.4 divided by 8. Grab my handy dandy calculator here. So I do second cosine, the inverse cosine, of 7.4 divided by 8. Press enter, and I see that my angle is 22.33 degrees. Looking here at some application type problems. It says find the length of the building to the nearest tenth of a foot. So since it is a building, we know this is my right angle here. What I'm looking for is this right here, which would be one of my legs, my adjacent leg. So therefore, I'm going to be doing the cosine of 42 degrees is going to be equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. This is my hypotenuse, 68. Since I've got this here, that means I'm going to be multiplying both of these together. So we're actually going to be doing 68 cosine 42 is equal to our building. Here I get my handy dandy calculator out. I come over here and I type in 68 cosine 42. And I see that my building is 50.5 feet tall. Notice this one says round to the nearest tenth. Always pay attention to where they ask you to round to. Number 12 says a very long escalator has a vertical rise of 300 feet and rises at an angle of 9 degrees. How long is the escalator? So here's my escalator here. I'm going to draw a picture. This is my 9 degrees. It tells me that this is 300 feet, and what I'm looking for is my hypotenuse. This would be my right angle here, and I have my opposite side, opposite, and my hypotenuse. So I'm going to be doing the sine. So the sine of 9 degrees is equal to 300 over h. So the h and the sine of 9 switch places. So I now have h is equal to 300 divided by the sine of 9 degrees. Grab my handy dandy calculator again. I come over here and plug these in. And in doing these right here, we have 300 divided by the sine of 9. Press enter. Wow, that is a really long escalator. Let's go and double check. Where did they ask me to round to? They didn't. So we'll do the same as our last problem, the nearest tenth of a foot. So our escalator is 1,917 feet, 0.7 feet long. That's an awfully long escalator. Looking at another example here. An airplane climbs at an angle of 20 degrees with the ground. Find the ground distance the plane travels as it moves 3,000 meters through the air. Alright, so I got my little plane here. It's moving at an angle of 20 degrees. It's traveled 3,000 meters. I'm looking for this part right here, my adjacent side. So this is going to be the cosine of 20 degrees is equal to the adjacent side divided by 3,000. Since 3,000 is my hypotenuse, I'm now going to multiply 3,000 times the cosine of 20. So grabbing my handy-dandy calculator, I type in 3,000 cosine 20 degrees, press enter. It travels 2,819.1 meters along the ground as it goes 3,000 meters. Let's go. Here is asking us to find the perimeter. Before I can find the perimeter, I have to find my edges. I have to find my length and my width. In order to find my length and my width, I'm going to have to use my information given right here by my right triangle. The width is the opposite side, so this is going to be the sine of W is equal to, oh no, not the sine of W, that's all wrong. It's going to be, try again, the sine of 40 is equal to the opposite side, which is my W over 24. So I'm going to go through and do that real quick. So I got my handy dandy calculator here, and I punch in 24 sine 40, and I press enter, and I see that the width is 15.4. I now need to go find the length. Because I got my width is 15.4, I got to go find my length. Now the length is the adjacent side, so that's going to be cosine. So I've got the cosine of 40 is equal to L over 24. So I go and grab my handy dandy calculator here, and I punch in 24 cosine of 40. I press enter, and this one comes up to be, the length is equal to 18.4. I now have my length and my width. I can now find my perimeter. So the perimeter is 2 times the length plus the width. That is my perimeter. So my perimeter is going to be 2 times 15.4 plus 18.4. I go through and I can use my handy dandy calculator to help me with those calculations. So I do 2, I can hit the 2 here, 2, there we go, 2 parentheses, 15.4 plus 18.4. Close my parentheses, press enter, and the perimeter is 67.6 meters. And going through and studying for your trig functions, you need to always make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. Take your time. Think of our little SOHCAHTOA. And as always, good luck.